Let me take this opportunity first to welcome all, including, of course, members of the media that are here. Do understand that it has been back-to-back for you guys, as you have alerted me to your busy schedule. The briefing that some of you were telling me about, I don't remember it at 2, it's going to be at 2:30. Let me take this opportunity first to acknowledge the presence of those who are joining the minister here at the podium. I have Mr. Sinthumule Ramabulani, the principal for the Intelligence Academy, and he is also in his capacity here as the acting DG for SSA. We have also Dr. Ntandazo Sifolo, the acting coordinator for NICOC. So they are here at the front, joining the minister in the presidency, who also is responsible for the state security. We know that the minister this morning was having a budget vote in the chamber, Good Hope chamber. It is not my area to speak on. She will, of course, obviously maybe touch on it. Maybe without any ado, let me take this opportunity to welcome Minister Ntshavheni to take us through the business of the period that we are in today. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Brawili. We are also joined by the Inspector General of Intelligence, Mr. Imtiaz Faisal. I thought you don't leave leadership sitting at the benches, you get in trouble. So I didn't see him go that way, so I only noticed him when he was sitting there. Today we had a budget vote debate on vote 8, National Treasury, and the sub-vote is State Security Agency. But today what brings us here is because we're marking a historic milestone in our democratic journey, one which speaks directly to the principles of national security, constitutional accountability, transparency, and national resilience as enshrined in our section 198 of our Constitution. In line with the commitment that I made during the 2024 budget vote debate and today's budget vote debate, and in direct response to the recommendations of the 2018 High-Level Review Panel on the State Security Agency, I'm hereby formally releasing the public versions of the National Security Strategy 2024 to 2028 and the National Intelligence Estimate 2019 to 2024. And the National Intelligence Estimate is accompanied by its national intelligence priorities. As explained during the budget debate today, national security considerations dictated that we cannot release the current version of the National Intelligence Estimate and the National Intelligence Priorities, the supporting National Intelligence Priorities. Hence, we are publishing the National Intelligence Estimate covering the period of the 6th administration. This is the first time in the history of the Republic of South Africa that such instruments of national intelligence are being released in a manner that is both transparent and structured, while maintaining the required integrity for national security. It is not only a profound step forward, but a clear paradigm shift in how the intelligence community relates to the state, to parliament, and to the people. The National Intelligence Estimate 2019 to 2024 provided a consolidated, evidence-based assessment of the strategic threats, risks, and opportunities facing our nation. It is the product of collaborative inputs from across the national intelligence community under the tutelage of the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, NICOC, as per the provisions of the National Strategic Act of 1994, Act number 39, and other strategic legislations. It seeks to ensure that our national response to complex security issues from illegal immigration, espionage, cyber threats, and transnational organized crime to climate security, as well as domestic instability, amongst others, is informed, proactive, and coordinated. The NIE is directly aligned with our national planning instruments and consists of 5 themes, namely 1, threats to the economy, 2, territorial integrity, 3, authority of the state, 4, threats to the well-being of South Africans, as well as number 5, threats emanating from foreign or global terrain. The 2019 to 2024 national intelligence priorities were fully integrated with the priorities of the medium-term strategic framework, as we commonly knew it as the MTSF, and they are as follows. On the domestic intelligence priorities, the first priority was to investigate threats to South Africa's sovereign economic and business capacity and capabilities emanating from both the domestic and foreign actors and events. Number 2, improve intelligence capacity to counter border-based and migration threats in support of the BMA. And we've been accused that we have not been doing anything around the immigration and the porous borders, and we have been working to support the BMA, the SAPS and the SNDF in making sure that we limit the porousness of our borders. Unfortunately, in our line of business, you don't go out and say, as these numbers are coming out, as we are starting to cap the porousness of our borders, that it is our work. We always operate behind the scenes, and those who don't like us, they say we operate in the shadows. But we prefer to operate behind the scenes and not in the shadows. 3, we advise on vetting and forewarn about the appointment of foreign nationals at organs of state in strategic sectors where they have access to sensitive and classified information. This should be pursued in line with Section 22 of the Constitution. We identify and investigate the activities of the foreign intelligence services pertaining to South Africa's economic and business interests, both domestic and abroad. We bolster cyber forensic capability to effectively address and regulate online technologies and cryptocurrencies that are exploited to facilitate IFFs. We adjust South Africa's cybersecurity posture to accommodate counterintelligence and proactive security at its core. Conduct vulnerability assessments and vetting at SOEs. Prioritize security appraisals and advice at critical infrastructure. Prioritize cybersecurity vulnerabilities at organs of state, including in procurement, supply chain management, and reliance on foreign-based companies within national security domains. Investigate activities related to terror financing that are characterized by vulnerabilities in the border security environment, exploitation of the cash economy, abuse of remittances, as well as the challenges presented by the new financial technologies. And you will recall the country was grey-listed for some of the deficiencies in this area of vulnerability that we have indicated as a priority that the law enforcement agencies and everyone involved must work on. And we have worked collectively within the security cluster and other affected parties to ensure that South Africa could clear the 22 action items from the FATF. And as we have indicated during the budget vote, we are only awaiting the site inspection by the team that will happen next year, isn't it? Yeah, next year, so that we can then we can know whether we are moved out from the grey listing or not. But we have addressed all the issues that they've raised. We also said we must prioritize investigation and mitigation of organized or syndicated criminal activities, including drug smuggling as well as human smuggling and trafficking. Investigate and mitigate the cross-border smuggling of narcotics and precursor chemicals for narcotics. On the foreign intelligence priorities, we had set out to establish and determine negative forces that seek to undermine and sabotage South Africa's chairship of the African Union, and also identify opportunities for country to boast her progressive overtures in the continent, and to ensure and develop a system that will enhance and protect the country's economic position and interest in the continent through the provisions of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Also, that there must be a consolidation of efforts to stabilize the SADC region, to advance the national interest and further enhance early warning mechanisms to manage political risks, security and economic stability in partnership with SADC member states. Also, to enhance coordination of South Africa's response and engagements in the United Nations Security Council throughout 2020, and continue to lobby for the reform of the United Nations Security Council. to develop a strategy and implement programs aimed at countering hostile forces that seek to undermine the country's interest in the continent, and further identify foreign powers in South Africa and the continent that are pro or against our interest. Further, to develop legislation framework to deal with espionage activities. And also to strengthen the state's capacity to detect and counter precursors of terrorism, and to develop a strategy to neutralize hostile activities of nationals, of a particular country's nationals. Those who see the document where it's blackened out, it means we have removed the name, because we couldn't remove the entire part, we just removed the name of that country's nationals in South Africa, and then expedite efforts to resolve diplomatic tensions between the two countries, that is South Africa and that particular country that remains unnamed. And this is the focus that the intelligence services, the law enforcement agencies, and departments and provinces have been given to them to work on, to make sure that we achieve the goals of our national security, both the work that relates to the domestic front and also in our foreign approach, what we call the rest of the world at the SSA. And that's what they've been focusing on. Some have had successes, some have not had successes. So next year, as you measure the progress, or even now, as you measure the progress we've made with the state security agencies in particular, and the NICOC that we have reported on, the OIC that we have reported on, and the National Communication Center and the intelligence agencies, you must measure us against our quest to achieve, to make sure those priorities are achieved. But also, you must focus also on the departments that have the responsibility to deliver some of those priorities, that how far and how far they've gone in terms of making sure that they are in line with protecting our national security and our national interest as they conduct their businesses. On the national security strategy, the national security strategy was endorsed by Cabinet on the 13th of March 2024, and it brings a cohesion to our national security efforts. It outlines a whole of government, with its publication, the whole of society approach to national security, by embedding intelligence at the core of strategic foresight, resilience building, and crisis prevention. And our argument is that we should not be measured by the number of crises that we have managed, but we must be measured by the number of crises that have not taken place, because it means then we have been effective. And in the period that we are speaking about of 2019-2024, outside of the 2021 July uprising, there have not been any other disruptive threats to the country. Those that have been disruptive is climate change related, which nobody has control over, but we have been working to make sure we do give advisory on the best mechanism going forward, more especially on the provinces and areas that are continuously affected by the impact of climate change, so that we can prevent future loss of lives. And those solutions and proposals are not short-term. Some of them are medium-term, and some of them require long-term proposals. But we have been working to mitigate, because ours is also the security of human life, and security of human life, it only takes place when we prevent the loss of lives. The national security strategy is grounded in the principle that national security is inseparable from human security, economic stability, democratic governance, social justice, and above all, national interest. There are 8 critical pillars contained in the national security strategy. The first pillar is the protection of South Africans, or public security, which is in the principal speak, is the well-being of South Africans. The objectives of this pillar is to ensure that the state protects the public and ensures its well-being, protects the constitutional order of the Republic of South Africa, ensure its sovereignty, independence, and its territorial and social stability in society, improve the mechanisms of interaction between the state and civil society, and national dialogue is going to take place as part of these mechanisms. Strengthen safety and security, eradicate corruption, protect citizens and all forms of property, protect the rights and freedoms of citizens, eradicate poverty, inequality, unemployment, and racism by promoting social cohesion. The second pillar is the protection of the territorial integrity of the Republic, which is South Africa. This pillar is aimed at ensuring that the goal of defending the country are being achieved through the implementation of modern and funded defense review and updated defense policy through strategic deterrence and the prevention of military conflicts, the improvement of military organization of the state, the forms of use and methods of action of the armed forces of the Republic of South Africa, and increased mobilization readiness. Pillar 3, protection and projection of our sovereignty. This pillar will ensure that the foreign policy of the Republic of South Africa creates favorable conditions for sustainable socio-economic development of the country, strengthens national security interests abroad, strengthens the position of South Africa on matters of national interest and national security by ensuring that the country's position is coherent and red lines are understood. Red line meaning what cannot be crossed, what we call our minimum in terms of national security. Pillar 4, protection of the economy or economic security. This pillar of the national security strategy will ensure that the economic security of South Africa is strengthened, the economic sovereignty of the country is protected, and that the competitiveness of the South African economy is increased, as well as its resistance to external and internal threats. It is further aimed at creating conditions for economic growth at the rate of which will be at par with global growth or higher. And this work we do to support the departments in the economic cluster and also support the business sector, because it is about South African Inc. And this is the work that we've set ourselves to do, but set all the of country to do, to make sure that we can achieve economic prosperity as enshrined in our constitution. Pillar 5, protection of cyberspace and the environment. This pillar aims at strengthening the sovereignty of South Africa in the information space through enhanced risk awareness, encourage the country stakeholders to assume responsibility for their cybersecurity and build the necessary capabilities. Earlier in the budget vote speech, I indicated that we are finalizing consultations on the cybersecurity strategy, and which includes getting South Africans to be aware of the cybersecurity threats to themselves and what their own responsibilities are to ensure the cybersecurity of the country. And when we finish with the cybersecurity strategy, we'll then go immediately to work on the cybersecurity policy, which will then give policy guidelines, or when in Parliament they call it a white paper. From this policy, we'll then develop the bill, which then Parliament will have to consider to make so that after they pass it, the President can consider consenting to that bill. As part of the efforts and the commitment I made last year, that we are working to make sure that we've got the cybersecurity bill in place that is responsive, that is robust, and that will make sure that South Africa is a cyber-secure country. Pillar 6, protection and promotion of technology and innovation. This pillar is aimed at ensuring that the South Africa's scientific and technological development is independent and competitive. It further ensures that there is enough investment into research and development capacity, and that the country's intellectual property is protected. I think this is self-articulating, and you are aware that the Department of Basic Education in the 6th administration started to introduce teaching of robotics, data analytics, and machine learning from grade 1, I think, from grade 1, and now it has progressed, and they're now teaching also technology as a course across, and that's part of making sure that we can be innovative. When I was in the Department of Small Business Development, the University of Limpopo were working on getting Siri or coding for a geospatial guidance in indigenous languages, meaning that Siri could speak in Sepedi, and if Siri could speak in Sepedi at some point, it will mean Siri will be able to speak in Tshivenda, Xitsonga, Sesotho, Setswana, isiXhosa, isiZulu, Afrikaans, Kru, and the Kwe, and Siswati, isiNdebele, and any other language that is official in South Africa. Because part of this work is important for the sovereignty and the independence of our country, but in a digital era, we are also driving an economy, a digital economy, so our children must be competitive, but ourselves must be competitive. But this work also includes supporting an environment that is led by the Department of Science and Innovation that creates a framework for scientific support and innovation in the country. We know and we are fully aware that investment in research and development in the country is low, but we continue to work and advise government and departments on means of increasing their ability to invest on technological development. We are still lucky that we are rated the biggest innovative country in Africa, but we don't want to settle for just being the biggest in our own continent. We want to settle for being the best in the world. So we want to punch, for those who want to say it, maybe punch above our weight, but we think our weight is big enough. Don't judge South Africa's weight by my weight. Pillar 7, protection of the environment and natural resources, or what we call environmental security. This pillar will ensure that the environmental security of South Africa and the rational use of natural resources. It will further ensure the quality of the environment necessary for favorable human life, conservation and restoration of the natural environments, balanced use of natural resources, and the mitigation of the negative effects of the climate change. I had spoken on this just previously at length. Pillar 8, which is the last pillar, protection of South Africa's culture and heritage, which we call cultural security. This pillar will ensure the strengthening of the cultural sovereignty of South Africa and preserve its unified cultural space and heritage through the protection of historical truth, the preservation of historical memory, continuity in the development of the country and its historically established unity, and opposition to the falsification of history. This pillar is further aimed at building social cohesion, national identity, and patriotism. And South Africa, we do very well on this pillar as it relates to sports and celebrations of our creative industry. But we do very badly in telling each other the truth and maintaining the truth. There are those who seek to rewrite history. Some of us, as we stand in the podium, we're not supposed to speak about how bad the apartheid oppressive system was into not only the psyche of South Africans, but to the development of the country, that still 30 years later, the country still suffer the after effects of the impact of apartheid, that only maybe my children and your children, some of you who are my age, will then benefit from living in a true and equal and prosperous South Africa, because there are those who continue to be opposed to transformation, to make sure that South Africans who were disadvantaged previously can be given equal opportunities, can be supported to enhance their participation in the economy. There are those who wish to preserve the rights of a few at the expense of the right of the majority. And in terms of our constitutional architecture, we and our forefathers have affirmed and committed that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that the country's wealth must be shared amongst those who work it, and that all South Africans must be given equal opportunity. And we cannot whitewash the history of apartheid and its impact on our people. We must also recall the warnings of the 2018 High-Level Review Panel that a lack of a policy coherence, political accountability, and institutional reform within the intelligence community posed a threat to national security itself. In implementing the panel's recommendation by releasing the NIE, the NIP, and the National Security Strategy, we are not only representing or complying with the recommendation, but we are deliberate in our action of democratic renewal. It is our commitment to building a modern, ethical, and professional intelligence capability guided by law, oversight, and strategic foresight. This is part of our commitment to transform the sector to serve the Constitution, not partisan interests. Let me be clear, this is not the end of the process. It is the beginning of a new, progressive chapter in how intelligence functions in the service of South African people. We do so in a world of rapidly evolving threats, hybrid warfare, misinformation, climate-induced instability, and shifting geopolitical dynamics. Our national security response must be anticipatory, inclusive, and adaptive. In conclusion, I want to thank the men and women of our national intelligence community, both at the SSA, SAPCI, Defense Intelligence, and NICOC, and the Office of the Inspector General, who have worked with discipline, humility, and excellence to bring this moment to fruition. I also extend appreciation to Parliament for holding us accountable, and to the people of South Africa for whom this transformation is being undertaken. Let history reflect that we chose transparency over secrecy, service over self-interest, and reform over inertia. But we chose this transparency within the confines of our national security interests. Let us now work together to protect and advance our democratic gains through intelligence that is principled, professional, and people-centered. The documents, that is the National Security Strategy 2024 to 2028, and the National Intelligence Estimate with its national intelligence priorities 2019 to 2024, have been published on the government website www.gov.za. This is www.gov.za, and the presidency website, which is www.presidency.gov.za. I'm still negotiating with SSA on whether we can publish on their website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Maybe I should also thank very much the SSA for conscientizing the country on the interface of our security agencies. It's quite important, and I think, Minister, you articulated it well, especially your closing lines of transforming within, of course, the mandate of the national security. Minister, I've been requested again to repeat on record the names of the panel in front of yourself, as some of the television stations are saying they want to capture the names correctly. As I've indicated, Minister also indicated that at the extreme right, we have Mr. Imtiaz Faisal, who is the Inspector General of Intelligence. I hope I'm correct. Next to him, we have Dr. Ntandazo Sifolo, Acting Coordinator, NICOC. And then next to, on my immediate left, I have Ntatesin Tumule Ramabulana, the Principal for the Intelligence Agency, Academy actually, who is also the Acting DG of SSA. On that note, thank you very much. I'm not sure, Minister, if we have questions. I'll check first if we have any questions in the House before we check online. If you have questions, the drill will be the same. Next to you, there is a red knob. You press it, introduce yourself and the media house that you represent, and then you go to your questions. Let me recognize your hand, note your hand, and recognize your hands in that order.
Thank you so much, Minister Junior.
Junior, just hold on. I think there is
way, why now? Why are you releasing this strategy now? But also, just speak to us about the role of state security. I remember the president, when he was in Brazil, he spoke about how the allegations that were made by the KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi were a threat to the country's state security. As state security, firstly, were you aware of some of these revelations that have come forward from Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? Were you doing anything about this as state security? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you, Rauli. Minister, my name is Babalo Onenza from EWN. I was just paging through the documents that were given to us, and the conclusion in this national strategy, it speaks of, various risks, security risks, domestically and internationally, abroad. And some of them, I'm just trying to get an example when you talk about factors that undermine the functioning of the state. What kind of risks are these? If you could maybe just give question just related to your budget earlier. You spoke about skills within intelligence, you know, and the academy, etc. You mentioned, I think you mentioned anthropology as, you know, I'm not sure you were referring to that, you know, the old skills. You had people with anthropology masters in intelligence. Just give us an idea, maybe even if the head of the academy can also assist. What kind of skills are you looking for now in your skills audit? Are you looking for, what is it, technical skills? Is it AI? Is it more information systems? Is it computers? Or is it other operations? If you just give us an idea. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we have only 2 questions online. I ask the indulgence to take them. Oh, there is a follow-up.
Sorry, just a quick one. In terms of, we've seen now there's a lot of political parties that are protesting following what happened, the allegations that were leveled by Mkhwanazi and the president's handling of the matter. These parties, civil society, some people who are protesting are saying that they're unhappy about the handling. Is there currently a security threat when it comes to the country? Is there a threat that we might see some of the unrest that we saw when that July unrest happened? I don't know if you understand my question, but thank you for allowing me.
Thank you very much, Minister. Maybe allow us to take just the last 2. I have my colleague Lisa, who will take us through the questions online. Please.
Good afternoon, Minister and panel. The first question comes from Khumbudzo Ntshavheni from Kaya News, Kaya FM. Question number 1. There is anxiety as provinces have started campaigns to support Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. There is fear that security in the country might be compromised. Is there a crisis with South Africa's state security? The second question, can the citizens be assured that they are safe and there will never be another unrest? Number 3 from Khumbudzo. How safe are G20 delegates traveling to South Africa considering the current instability within the police force? Then the second question online is from Linda Insel Business Day. She asks, what is the difference between the national intelligence estimates and the national security strategy? Those are the 2 questions that I can see online. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. And in your response, you might also take.
So you bring men with you to support you to respond to questions. And I thought because they are all declared, what do you call yourself? Declared operatives?
Yeah. Official.
Yeah, they are officially declared. They will not run away from the mic. So they are all running away because I was going to distribute the questions, you know, accordingly. Yeah, but they've left it to the girl. It's tough being a girl amongst the boys. Oh, I need to first correct the FATF date, the FATF inspection date. They're coming now, end of July, 29th and 30th of July, 2025. So I hope South Africans will behave. The visitors will be here. We need to get out of the grey listing. It's important for all of us to do. Why release the strategy now? So other countries release the strategies. It will help South Africans to understand what are we focusing on at a policy level and strategy level, and also how they can also help. We have not given you the full strategy. We've given you what we call the public version of the strategy, because they are sensitive. There are others that are sensitive. It's for our implementation and the other agencies that we work with. But it's important that South Africans understand our mandate and what we are focusing on. This strategy guides the work of the South African state security agency, and when we break up, it will guide that intelligence community. Then you will know that this work is not what they are doing is not what they used to do of doing other funny things. You must hold us accountable to say what you have set yourself as the pillars of the strategy, what is the progress you are making as it relates to those pillars, including what we call the national intelligence estimates and priorities. We are willing to have a conversation that says, how far have you gone in terms of the priorities, both at the domestic level and at the foreign level, that we have set aside, that you have set for yourselves and the country? Because it's not for us alone. Some of them must be done by the police, some of them must be done by the defense, some of them must be done by DTSC, all the economic cluster departments, all the security cluster departments, which includes Home Affairs. Everybody has a role. On the cultural security, for instance, the Department of Sports Arts and Culture plays a critical role. So you must all help, you hold us to say, are those things being achieved? As SSA, are you monitoring? And as NICOC, are you monitoring that those things are being achieved? Is there nobody going out to compromise our national interest? Like what happened earlier in this year with the issue of disinformation that was threatening the social cohesion of the country, but also threatening the unity within our diversity of the country. So those are the things that we get settled doing those. So we're telling you what our work focuses on, what we are directed on. And that's what you must hold us accountable to. You say, what are the risks? They're there. You can read them. I'm not reading the risk because I know what where you want to get to the risk. You want me to read out for record?
No, I only paid for 3 minutes. I just got the book.
But that's why you're a journalist. You'll do the document is fully available publicly. You can have the discussions. We can work around how do we do the clarifications if there are post clarifications. We have listed the risk and the risks. Remember, a risk does not necessarily materialize. The issues that you need to identify it and mitigate against it. Because one of the risks is the risk of coup d'etat. To say there is a potential risk of a coup d'etat. We have identified it and we've put measures to mitigate against it. So that's why we say to South Africans, there has not been anyone attempting to do a coup in South Africa. In the last few days or in the last few weeks, there has not been anyone attempting to do a coup in South Africa. We can say that not that they are not people planning, they are, but we're continuously monitoring them and making sure that we deal with those. It's for those reasons that we unveiled, and like I said earlier, when things are done, everybody else will claim the glory for the work that we have done. So we can't come and say, well, of course there are those who will go with cameras and say we are arresting, I almost went there. We are arresting these people for this and this. They don't tell you that is intelligence driven and it's from us. It's us who pass. We don't have the arresting power to make sure we stay proper and clean and uphold the constitutional principles of our country. So we then rely on the law enforcement agencies to do the arrest, but who would have done the spade work. And then political parties protesting. I don't know why they're protesting. For one thing, I know General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi does not need anyone's protection. So I don't know why they're protesting. We need to understand the decision of the president. The president has to uphold the provisions of the Constitution. He has to ensure that there is due process. It's not just about the allegations made by General Mkhwanazi. It's about what the NIP has identified. If you recall when I was reading, I can, maybe I must just get my tablet and read the problems. And if I can get a note, there is a mandate in that which we have not, when you see, of decontaminating the criminal justice system in the country. Because we are aware of the challenges that are there, and that's why there is a priority that deals with that. To say, decontaminate the criminal justice system of criminality, of corruption, and all that. There is that mandate that is given by NICOC in the National Intelligence Estimate and Priorities. So that work continues to unfold, and we don't have the privilege, like my other departments, States SA and GCIS and the presidency, where we can come and give a blow-by-blow of progress of how far we've gone in implementing X or implementing Y, because we threaten national security when we do so. And therefore, consequently, is there a threat to G20 delegates? No, there's no single threat to G20 delegates. We do threat assessments for all the meetings. It doesn't matter whether it's a Sherpa meeting, ministerial meeting, deputy ministers meetings, officials meeting. We do all the threats assessments in time, and we mitigate, and there have not been any threats coming out in South Africa. The safety and security of the delegates of the G20, it's guaranteed. It's not the first meeting, the important meeting that this country has hosted. Is it a year ago or the other year, we hosted the BRICS summit here with high-profile delegates who are mostly at risk, and everybody was safe in this country. And even when we held the BRICS, it did not just start with the leader summit, it started with the preparatory meetings from the various streams, and everybody was safe. So we are safe in this country. The president's responsibility is to make sure that he gets to the root of it, and that's why he had announced that the reports will go to also Parliament, to the judiciary, so that we can then deal with the things that have to be dealt with quicker. Unless we want to join the lynching, a mob of lynching one person over the other and taking sides without facts. As a president, he has a responsibility to make sure that there's due process followed. Because if he doesn't follow due process, the next moment, all of us, I'll take a podium and accuse one of you of something else, and then there must be action. You'll take a podium and accuse me of something else, and there must be and that's not new. People must be given an opportunity to clarify themselves, but it's more than clarifying themselves. It's finding, dealing, and addressing the root causes of the problems, as identified in the National Intelligence Estimate, to say we need to decontaminate the criminal justice system in its entirety of corruption, of criminality, so that we can then deal with crime in this country. And that's what the president has provided us to do. And he has given strict timelines to say there must be intermediate reports in 3 months and in 6 months. And it brings the whole actors, because there are those who are saying, no, we have had commissions we have not acted on. We are acting, by the way, on the Zondo Commission report, and we provide continuous reports to Parliament. Even last month, we provided a report on the work that progress with the implementation of the Zondo Commission recommendations. But to also mitigate that, which will say there's going to be a delay, the president has gone further and said the reports as they come in, they're not only going to go to him, they're also going to go to Parliament and also going to go to the Chief Justice. So it addressed the issue of people being afraid of saying there might be delay in the implementation of the recommendations. There won't be delays. On the skills, they're going to get me fired if I repeat what I said. They were not very happy with me, because it talks to our capability and our capacity. It talks to our, how do I say it? It talks to how we are able to respond. So that's why we said in the debate that we'll submit the skills audit report and the competency assessment report to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence. And you recall when I was addressing, I clarified the matter that was raised by Honorable Hadebe of the IFP and the lady from Busa, the honorable member from Busa, who were saying the budgets must be published, it must be declassified. And we said, if you disclassify, it gives our adversaries knowledge into how we are operating and what we are spending on, and therefore it unveils our capacity and our capability, which that knowledge or that openness will then threaten national security. I'm trying to find I hope somebody was nice and sent me the written questions. On the written questions, I've dealt with the question around General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Whether there will be no other unrest. How many times since 2021 July uprising have they tried to do mass mobilizations, mass uprisings. They've tried, but as the net joints and the security cluster have managed to deal with those effectively, and they've come out to naught. And that was demonstrating our ability to handle any attempts at an uprising in the country. If we have to elevate above the net joints, we'll do the elevation above the end joints. What is the difference between the national security strategy and the national intelligence estimate? I thought this needs the professionals. But the strategy gives the overall direction and say this is the focus areas. The estimates are done, so we've done an estimate for the term, for the 7th administration, for instance. That's why we've released for the 6th administration. But we revise them annually. So annually we go to the National Security Council and go to Cabinet to say, given what we told you last year, this is how the situation is panning about, either through interventions or through non-interventions or through other developments as they evolve, because security environment evolves. So that's what the estimate does. That's why we call them estimates. And then from those estimates, we either revise the priorities, the international intelligence priorities, to say, when you were focusing on X, now the priority X has been managed sufficiently or is no longer a major threat. The priority has become a priority C. Go and focus on priority C. So that's what we do. And so the strategy is there for the long term. We do review, but ordinarily we do biannual review. You may do a review of the strategy if there's been a massive global shift. We're still debating whether we need to then do another huge review of the national security strategy given the global developments, so that our strategy can be responsive to the new developments in the globe, or whether we had sufficiently covered it from the strategy level and also from the estimate levels, and therefore enabling us to respond effectively to the challenges that face our country. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to urge South Africans and assure them that the security cluster is solid. The security cluster is able to do its work. There are men and women in various capacities who continue to work as patriots for the protection of this country. And there are men and women in the intelligence services or intelligence community who continue to work to make sure that this country is safe. There are men and women in the defense, in the police services, who work for the greater benefit of this country. So any challenges that confront us, we're a resilient nation. We've always found solutions. We've always been able to deal with solutions, and we've addressed them. And because people are worried about the national security, that's why the president has given shorter timelines to the Commission of Inquiry to report and to make recommendations whilst it's doing its work. And that must give South Africans the comfort that our security is a priority for this government. And for that reason, we have also released the National Security Strategy, so that there can be a discussion, and also the national intelligence estimates, so that there can be a discussion in the country, is that the work that is being done, is it enough? What are the gaps, so that we can improve? Because national security is all our responsibility. Thank you very much.
We are safe. On that note, this press briefing is adjourned, and thank you very much.